Welcome to AI Paper Podcast, where we distill cutting-edge research into, digestible insights for you.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're unpacking a paper that tackles, I think, one of the biggest headaches in training these truly massive language models. A really fundamental challenge.
Yeah, we're diving into Group Sequence Policy Optimization, or GSPO. It's from the Twin team at Alibaba. And this isn't just some minor tweak,
Right.
It's a pretty groundbreaking reinforcement learning algorithm designed to bring much-needed stability, efficiency, and frankly, better performance to LLM training, especially when you're working at serious scale.
And the core challenge GSPO goes after. It's like, Imagine trying to teach a huge AI by correcting every single word it spits out, even if the whole paragraph is actually brilliant. It's kind of the old way, right? Like with GRPO.
Yeah.
And it often leads to these, AI meltdowns, catastrophic model collapse.
Exactly.
So GSPO's big idea is to say, hang on, let's judge the whole response, the entire sequence for quality, not just word by word.
That shift, that move to sequence-level thinking, that's the key. It unlocks this stability and performance they're seeing.
And the implications sound pretty huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It has really profound effects. It stabilizes training for those complex mixture of experts models, MOE models, which are notoriously tricky. Plus, it simplifies the actual RL infrastructure underneath it all. It makes it easier for people to actually use. And crucially, the paper points out GSPO directly helped with the big improvements in the latest Quinn 3 models.
Okay, so let's get into it. How does GSPO actually pull this off, and why is it such a pivotal step for scaling these LLMs?
Let's do it.
So maybe let's set the stage properly first. We've seen RL, reinforcement learning, become this really central way to scale up language models, right?
Literally.
Enabling them to handle incredibly sophisticated stuff, moving way beyond just generating text into areas like competition-level math or even complex coding tasks.
That's right. RL is incredibly powerful. But to really unlock its full potential, to push those boundaries even further, we desperately need stable and robust training dynamics.
Right.
And the paper points out that the current state-of-the-art algorithms, GRPO being a prime example here, often suffer from these severe, almost crippling stability issues when you try to train the really giant models.
So what actually happens?
What happens frequently is a catastrophic model collapse. And often it's irreversible. You can't just roll back.
Wow.
And this instability, it fundamentally hinders our ability to keep improving these models with RL. You just hit this wall where the model effectively breaks.
Stable and robust sounds great, but you're saying current methods often just crash. Can you walk us through what's actually breaking under the hood with something like GRPO?
Yeah, the paper digs into this. It identifies a really fundamental problem. It's a misapplication, really an invalidation of important sampling weights within GRPO's actual algorithm design.
Okay, important sampling. Remind us quickly.
Sure. It's a core RL technique. You use it when you want to learn about a new policy or strategy, but you only have data generated by an old one. It lets you sort of re-weight that old data so it's relevant for the new strategy.
Got it. So how does GRPO mess it up?
Well, GRPO calculates this importance weight for every single token in the response. It compares the probability of that token under the new policy versus the old policy.
Okay.
But the kicker is, this weight is based on just one single sample from each next token distribution. And that single sample approach, it just completely fails to do its job correctly. It doesn't perform the distribution correction it's supposed to.
So something designed to help actually introduces noise, chaos. Is it like a flaw in the basic idea or just how they applied it?
It seems to be a fundamental misapplication in this specific context, yeah. And this noise isn't minor. It actually accumulates. It gets worse as the response gets longer. Like, imagine steering getting looser the faster you drive.
It's not good.
Not good at all. And worse, the clipping mechanism that's like a safety rail in RL to stop huge, crazy updates based on really off-policy samples, outputs very different from what the model would generate, now that clipping actually amplifies the noise in GRPO.
Wow, so the safety feature makes it worse.
In this case, yeah. The result is often that model collapse we talked about, and it can be irreversible. They found that once it happens, even going back to an old checkpoint or fiddling with hyperparameters, nothing really fixes it. The core issue, the paper argues pretty clearly, is that the unit of the optimization objective, the individual token, just doesn't match the unit of the reward signal, which is given for the entire sequence. That mismatch creates the fundamental instability.
Okay, that sounds like a real nightmare for anyone training these things. We've pinpointed the problem. Those token-by-token corrections are the weak link. So how does GSPO turn the tide, as they say? What's the fix?
The key innovation, the real breakthrough in GSPO, is its theoretically grounded definition of the importance ratio, but it's based on sequence likelihood.
Sequence likelihood. Yeah. Okay.
So instead of trying to correct individual words, GSPO looks at the entire sequence, the whole output, and calculates a single sequence likelihood ratio. It's kind of like an overall measure of how much the model's style or probability distribution has shifted for that entire response.
Okay, like an average change over the whole thing?
Sort of, yeah. And they raise it to the power of 1 over the sequence length, which helps keep it controlled, prevents it from fluctuating wildly. This sequence-level approach lines up directly with the basic idea of importance sampling. And critically, it aligns perfectly with the sequence-level reward the model gets. It's holistic, not granular.
Now, this next bit I found really elegant. They didn't just stop at the sequence likelihood ratio, they applied that same thinking to the clipping part, too.
Exactly, that's the consistency.
So it literally clips entire responses if they're too off policy, instead of fiddling with individual tokens?
Precisely. It keeps everything consistent from how you reward the model to how you actually update it. And to make it even more robust, more practical, GSPO uses length normalization in that sequence likelihood calculation.
Why is that so important?
It's absolutely crucial for a couple of reasons. First, it helps reduce variance, which just makes the training smoother, more stable. Second, it keeps that sequence likelihood ratio within a reasonable, unified numerical range. Without that normalization, just a few tokens changing likelihood could make the whole sequence ratio jump around like crazy. Plus, responses of different lengths would need different clipping settings, which would be a nightmare for tuning. Length normalization keeps it all manageable and scalable.
So let's connect the dots. What does this mean for the actual gradient updates, how the model learns? How is GSPO fundamentally different from GRPO there?
Yeah, if you look at how these algorithms actually drive the learning, the big difference is how they weight the gradients from the log likelihoods of the tokens.
Okay.
In GRPO, remember, each token gets weighted differently based on its individual importance weight. And those weights can vary wildly, some tiny, some huge.
Right.
That leads to unpredictable updates.
Right, the source of the noise.
Exactly. In stark contrast, GSPO weights all tokens within a given response equally. It just removes that source of instability entirely. It provides a much cleaner, much more consistent learning signal across the whole generated sequence.
The theory behind GSPO sounds really solid, very well thought out. But, you know, the proof is in the pudding. What about the actual results? How does it perform when you try it out for real on these massive models?
The empirical results they show are pretty compelling, yeah.
Yep.
They demonstrate significant advantages. The team used a cold start model, fine-tuned from Qwen 330B A3B base.
Okay.
And what they thought with GSPO was just superior training stability. The whole process ran smoothly, consistently. It delivered continuous performance gains, even when they threw more compute at it, updated the queries, and made the model generate longer responses.
So it scales well.
It suggests a really robust and scalable algorithm, yeah, not just a one-off improvement.
And it's not just stability, which is huge, obviously, but the paper also claims it's more efficient. That sounds like a big win, given how expensive these training runs are. How does that work?
It's a massive win, actually. Beyond just being stable, GSPO got better training accuracy and better benchmark performance. They tested it on some really tough AI benchmarks.
Like what?
Think AMI 24, that's like an advanced math competition for AIs. And Live Code Bench and Codeforce's ELO, those are demanding programming contests. These aren't simple pattern matching tests. They require real reasoning.
And GSPO did better.
It better, yeah. And critically, it got these better results using the same amount of training compute and the same number of queries compared to GRPO.
So more bang for your buck.
Exactly. More effective learning for the same cost. And maybe the strongest validation is that it's been successfully used in the RL training for the latest Qwen 3 models. That really proves it works in practice, unleashing that RL scaling power.
Okay, this next part I found fascinating, almost backward. The paper mentions GSPO actually clicks away way more data than GRPO, like 2 orders of magnitude more.
Yeah.
Yet somehow it's more efficient. That feels wrong. How does throwing away more data lead to better results? What's the logic there?
It is totally counterintuitive, isn't it? And it's a really insightful finding. It sounds nuts, clip more, get better results, but maybe think of it like throwing out bad ingredients when you're cooking.
Okay.
GRPO was trying to cook using these noisy, unreliable token-level ingredients that just kind of messed up the final dish. GSPO instead throws out entire dishes, whole sequences that are too far off policy. It ensures only the highest quality, most relevant dishes actually contribute to the learning process.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. That's what makes it more efficient. Even though GSPO clips out a much bigger chunk of samples, meaning it uses fewer total samples for the gradient updates, its sequence-level approach provides a much more reliable, much more effective learning signal. The information per sample that actually gets used is far higher.
That's a great way to put it. Now, one area where this seems especially beneficial is mixture of experts MOE models. They're a hot topic, but they also sound incredibly hard to train with RL. Why are they so tricky, and how does GSPO help specifically?
Yeah, MOE models. Their sparse activation nature, where only a few expert subnetworks handle any given input, that introduces some really unique and quite profound stability challenges for RL.
How so?
Well, the paper found GRPO really struggles with something they call expert activation volatility. Basically, the specific experts that get activated for the same response can change quite a bit after just one or a few gradient updates from RL.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like for a 48-layer Qwen3 model, they saw maybe 10% of the activated experts would be different under the new policy compared to the old one after each update. This constant shifting makes those token-level importance ratios in GRPO fluctuate wildly, basically invalidating them and stopping the RL training from converging properly.
I remember reading about something called routing replay being used as a kind of patch for GRPO with MOEs. Sounds complicated. Was that the workaround?
Yes, exactly. That was the workaround. To handle this volatility, they used routing replay. It involved caching, which experts were activated by the old policy, and then forcing the new policy to use those same experts when calculating the importance ratios.
So forcing consistency.
Right. It restored stability by making sure the new and old policies were using the same network parts for each token comparison. But while it let GRPO kind of work, it had real downsides.
Like what?
Extra memory use, more communication overhead between GPUs, and it could potentially limit the MOE model's actual learning capacity by artificially restricting which experts it could use.
Okay.
The beauty of GSPO is that it just sidesteps this whole problem. It resolves the expert activation volatility issue at its root.
So if I'm getting this right, GSPO means you just don't need complex hacks like routing replay anymore. You can just train MOE models normally with RL.
Pretty much, yeah. That's a huge simplification. GSPO doesn't need routing replay at all.
Wow.
Its focus on sequence likelihood just isn't as sensitive to those token-level fluctuations caused by experts changing. So it converges normally, optimizes stably, and lets you use the full power of the MOE model without artificial limits or extra overhead. It really makes MOE training with RL much more viable.
That's fantastic. And beyond MOE, the paper hints at another big practical win, simplifying the RL infrastructure itself. What does that mean for the engineers actually deploying these things?
Yeah, this is a really nice practical benefit. You know how there are often tiny precision differences between the engines you use for training, like Megatron, and the ones used for fast inference, like VLLM or SGLang?
Sure, yeah. Different implementations, different hardware sometimes.
Exactly. Because of those discrepancies with methods like GRPO, you typically have to recompute the likelihoods of the sampled responses using the training engine under the old policy, just to be safe. It's an extra, often slow step.
Okay, I see.
But GSPO uses only the sequence-level likelihoods for optimization, not token-level ones. And it turns out sequence likelihood is much more tolerant of those small precision differences.
Yeah, so you might not need the recomputation.
That's the implication. It might be possible to just directly use the likelihoods you get back from the inference engine, skipping that whole recomputation step.
That sounds huge for efficiency.
It could be, yeah. Especially for things like partial rollout or multi-turn RL, where you have back and forth conversations, or these newer frameworks where training and inference are more separated. It could really streamline the whole large-scale RL workflow.
That sounds like a massive practical advantage, making these complex systems easier to build and run. Okay, so we've established GSPO's sequence level, but what if, for some reason, you do need finer control, maybe a specific multi-turn scenario where adjusting advantage per token is useful?
That's a good question, and they have an answer for that too. It's called GSPO Token.
GSPO Token, okay.
It's basically a token-level objective variant of GSPO. It's designed specifically to allow for that kind of token-wise advantage customization.
So it brings back token-level adjustments.
In a way, but carefully. Numerically, it's actually identical to the standard GSPO. Same optimization objective, same theoretical gradient. If you just set all the token advantages in a response to be the same as the overall sequence advantage.
Ah, okay. So it defaults to the stable GSPO behavior.
Exactly. But its design gives you the flexibility to adjust advantages per token if your specific application really needs that fine-grained control. You get the option without sacrificing the core stability benefits of the GSPO approach.
Got it. Provides flexibility while keeping the core improvements.
Precisely.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into group sequence policy optimization. It really seems to tackle some fundamental problems from that scary catastrophic model collapse, making MOE training truly practical without needing complex patches, and even simplifying the underlying RL infrastructure. GSPO really does stand out.
It really does feel like a significant step forward. It's not just tweaking things. It's providing a more robust and scalable algorithmic foundation for RL with these huge language models.
Yeah.
It feels like it lays the groundwork for continued progress, paving the way for even bigger improvements, like the kind we started seeing in the Qwen 3 models. It really pushes the frontier.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, here's a thought for you, the listener, to mull over until our next AI Paper podcast. With this newfound stability and the simpler infrastructure that GSPO enables, how much faster will we see the development of even more complex, maybe truly reasoning-capable language models?
Good question.
And what kinds of novel applications, things we maybe haven't even thought of yet, might emerge directly because we can finally do stable and scalable reinforcement learning on these incredibly powerful AI systems? Something to ponder.